We were still setting up camp, barely 20 minutes into our trip. She was unrolling the sleeping bags, laughing about how we should have brought the bigger tent, and then suddenly, her voice just went flat. I turned around to ask what happened, and she was staring past me. That's when I noticed a man standing a little too close to our campsite, like he'd been watching for a while before either of us caught him. No greeting, no smile. Just standing there like he was waiting for us to notice. And here's the detail that stayed with me more than anything else. His eyes didn't move around the camp like most people do when they approach strangers. He looked straight at us. Only us. Before I go on, have you ever been watched by someone who wasn't trying to hide it? It changes the air around you, makes everything a little heavier. I tried being polite, said hello, asked if he needed anything. He said our names, both of them. Softly, like he was confirming he got them right. I thought my partner must have introduced us earlier on the trail and just forgot to tell me. But when I looked at her, she looked back at me the same way I was looking at her, confused and unsettled. So I asked him how he knew who we were. He answered with something that didn't explain anything. People pay attention around here. That was all. Then he asked how our drive went. We never told him we drove. There were hikers who walked into the area. He didn't know that we drove, unless he'd seen the car. And if he had, he would have had to walk a long way from the only parking area. It was strange, but just strange enough that we brushed it off. One of those things you tell yourself doesn't matter because you don't want it to matter. He left without saying goodbye, just turned and walked straight into the trees like he'd memorized the forest a long time ago. The rest of the evening felt off in a way I couldn't name yet. Little things. The woods were quiet. Really quiet. You expect some noise, birds, insects, something. But the silence felt like a choice, not an accident. We kept glancing back at the tree line without meaning to. You know how you try to convince yourself something is normal, but your body keeps reacting anyway? That's how it felt. The dinner tasted different too, only because both of us were eating while thinking about that man instead of the food. At one point, I asked her, "Did you ever see him before today?" She shook her head without looking up from her bowl. I remember the way she nodded, slow, like she was answering while thinking about something else entirely. We had just cleaned up the dishes when she said quietly, "Don't react." He was standing at the same spot again, same posture, same distance. But this time, he didn't look at the campsite first. He looked directly at me, like he'd been waiting for me specifically. He said something I still can't shake. "You set up close to where you stayed last time." We had never been to this park before. I told him that. He didn't respond. He didn't even nod. Just watched us like he was measuring something. I tried asking if he was camping nearby. He said, "I move around." Then he walked off again. No gear, no pack, no food, no light. Just his hands in his pockets, walking like he had something on his mind. Tell me something. Would you have followed him, yelled after him, or pretended it didn't happen? I'm genuinely curious because we didn't do any of those. We just stood there and let him disappear into the dark. By the time we got into the tent, I think both of us were telling ourselves the same lie. He's weird, but harmless. That's what people say before the part they regret. Sometime around midnight, could have been earlier, I don't know. I woke up because the forest had gotten even quieter. There's a kind of silence that feels normal. And then there's the other kind. The kind that feels like everything is holding its breath. Then came the sound of footsteps. Slow. Steady. Not heavy enough to be an animal with weight. Not light enough for something small. Human. Coming from the direction the man had walked earlier. I tapped my partner's arm. She opened her eyes instantly, like she'd been awake already. Neither of us moved. The footsteps came right up to the side of the tent, and stopped. There's nothing soft or gentle about hearing a person stand so close you can feel their presence through thin fabric. Nothing cinematic about it. just wrong. We didn't say anything. Didn't unzip the tent. Did nothing. After maybe a minute, maybe longer, I lost track. The footsteps moved away. Not toward the trail. Not toward the ridge. Straight into the woods. Deeper. We waited almost an hour before going outside. I don't know what we expected to see. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. But stuck under one of our tent stakes was a folded piece of paper. Old. Crumpled. Wet around the edges. A hand-drawn map of the area. Our campsite was marked, circled in a thick line like someone wanted it to stand out. And near the circle, written in a handwriting that looked rushed and uneven. Same place as before. That part hit harder than seeing the man outside our tent. Before when? Before who? I remember looking at my partner, both of us waiting for the other to make sense of it. Neither of us could. We got back in the tent because we didn't know what else to do. That's when we heard branches snapping again. Not one person. More than one. Moving around us. Slow. Quiet. Like they were coordinating. I pushed myself up on my elbows and listened. Something walked past the mesh window, tall enough to block the little moonlight we had. And then, from somewhere in the dark, the man's voice came again. Closer than before. You should have taken the hint. The moment I heard his voice again, something in me shifted. It wasn't fear that hit first. It was the understanding that this man wasn't wandering, or lost, or strange in the harmless way you hope strangers are. He was here because of us. My partner mouthed, "Don't move." Her hand was gripping mine so tightly my fingers went numb. The footsteps outside weren't random this time. They had a rhythm, like people walking in a slow circle around the tent, stopping every few feet, listening. Have you ever been so aware of your breathing that you almost force yourself to stop doing it out loud? That's what the next minutes felt like. When he spoke again, he wasn't at the same distance. He had moved closer without making a sound, which made no sense after all the leaves and twigs we heard earlier. He said, "You shouldn't sleep here. Others already tried." Others. That word sat in my throat like a stone. My partner said quietly, barely audible, "What others?" He didn't answer that. Instead, he said something I still replay more than anything else. "You two had a different ending last time." That made my stomach tighten. The tone didn't sound like he was teasing us or even warning us. It sounded like someone stating a fact they believed completely. My partner shook her head immediately, murmuring, "He's messing with us." But even she didn't believe her own voice. We waited for the sounds to fade before unzipping the tent just enough to peek out. The fire had almost burned out. The trees were dark silhouettes, but you could see the ground clearly. Moonlight was hitting it straight on. There were footprints everywhere. Not one pair. Not two. Many. Different sizes. Different depths. All circling around our tent like people had been pacing around it. Some of the prints went off into the woods, but none came from the woods. They all started close to the tent, as if the people hadn't walked in, but had been standing around before we opened the tent. We didn't talk. We didn't need to. We started packing. Fast. I've never taken down a tent so quietly in my life. We grabbed our gear and headed for the trail. The plan was simple. Walk until sunrise, then drive to the nearest ranger post. We found the trail, but something was wrong. The dirt path we had taken earlier, clear, wide, flattened by years of hikers, didn't look the same. It was narrower, more overgrown, a little twisted compared to how we remembered it. At first I thought the darkness was playing tricks, that we were angled differently, but no, the trail was wrong. My partner said, "This isn't it, we should have hit the fork by now." We kept walking for another 10 minutes. The fork never came. Instead, we found something else. It looked like a campsite that hadn't been used in a long time. Torn fabric stuck under roots. A metal cup half buried in moss. Ropes tangled around a stump like they'd been cut or snapped. And in the dirt, barely visible unless you were really looking. The same hand-drawn map we'd found earlier, except older, faded, weathered, almost identical. Same circle, same markings, same handwriting. My partner picked it up with shaking hands, and I could tell she didn't want to ask the question forming in her head. But she did anyway. Why is this here? That's when I noticed something I hadn't seen the first time. On this version of the map, underneath the same circled campsite, someone had added the words, "Left at night." We both felt it at the same second, the snapping of a branch behind us. We froze. The man was standing a few feet away, not close enough to touch us, but close enough to see his face. And it wasn't blank expression this time. He looked disappointed. "You weren't supposed to come here again." There was a long silence. I asked him what he meant by again. He didn't break eye contact when he answered, "You keep choosing the same place." Something in my body finally took over, and we turned and ran. No planning. No checking where the trail was. Just instinct. Branches whipped our arms and legs. Something heavy moved somewhere behind us. I couldn't tell if he was following or if it was someone else, or several people. Every few seconds, I could hear him calling out, "You did this before. You always leave late. You never learn." It wasn't yelling, just loud enough to carry through the trees. The forest didn't feel like the same place anymore. It felt rearranged, like the trails were leading us in circles. At some point, we didn't hear the man behind us anymore, but we didn't stop running. Not when the trees thinned, not when the air shifted. We only stopped when we saw something familiar. Our own campsite. The tent we'd already packed. The fire pit we'd put out. The ground disturbed exactly the way we left it. We'd run in a full circle. The campsite was quiet, completely still. And there, sitting on the log next to our cold fire pit, was the man. Waiting. Calm. Resting his hands on his knees like he'd been there for a while. He looked at us like we were late to our own story, and he said one final thing. "You're going to forget this part too." He didn't move when we stepped back into the clearing. Didn't stand. Didn't threaten us. He just sat there, elbows resting on his knees, watching the two of us like parents watching a child come home late. I didn't speak first. Neither did my partner. I think both of us were waiting for something. An explanation, an apology, anything. Instead, he said, "You always end up here. Always. Not already. Not again. Always." My partner shook her head and said firmly, "We've never met you." He blinked once, slow, almost sympathetic. "That's what you said last time." He looked down at the dirt near his boots and dragged his heel across it, drawing an uneven line. "You two pick this place every time. Same trail. Same ridge, same camp spot, same night you decide to leave." His voice wasn't accusatory. It sounded tired, like someone who'd repeated something too many times. I stepped forward, and he didn't react, didn't lean back, didn't tense. I asked, "Why are you following us?" He lifted his eyes, and without a hint of hesitation he said, "I'm not following you. I'm trying to help you finish." Finish what? We didn't ask out loud, because I think we already felt the shape of the answer, even if we didn't understand the details. He pointed at our tent stake, the one where we'd found the first hand-drawn map. "There's always a moment when one of you realizes something is off," he said. "Always after dark. Always after the footsteps." My partner swallowed hard and said, "Whose footsteps?" He didn't look away when he answered, "The ones who don't leave." That sat in the air like a weight. He continued, "You two leave right before sunrise. Every time. You make it to your car. You say you'll tell someone. You don't." He breathed in slowly. "Then a year or two passes, and you come right back. Same place. Same night." I said, "We've never been here before." This is where his expression changed for the first time. Not anger, not fear, a kind of grief. You say that every time too. My partner grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. Her eyes weren't on him anymore. They were fixed on something behind the fallen logs lining our sight. Something small. Metal. I followed her stare. It was a camping mug. Our camping mug. Except older. Scratched. Dented. With a logo we didn't recognize. She said under her breath, "That's not ours, right?" I didn't answer. Next to the mug was a torn strap from a backpack. Same brand as mine. Different model. Looked like it had been there for years. A cold feeling crept up the back of my neck. Not dread, not panic, but a strange kind of déjà vu that didn't belong to any memory I actually had. I looked back at the man, and he was studying us with a sad, resigned expression. "You never believed me the first time," he said. He stood for the first time since we returned. And when he did, the sounds we'd heard earlier, the shifting in the woods, the low thuds, the quiet movement, went silent. Completely silent. He said, "If you keep following the trail you think is real, you'll just come back here again, and they'll wait for you again." My partner asked, "Who's they?" He looked at the forest. Not a particular tree or direction, just the forest itself. "There were campers before you, some years back, some decades, some... I don't know anymore." He turned back to us. "They chose to stay. That's why this place doesn't let go of the ones who leave." I stepped closer to him and asked, "Why are you helping us? Why us?" He looked genuinely surprised by the question. "Because I was supposed to leave too." That hit harder than anything else he said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a slip of paper. Blank, folded, worn at the edges the same way the maps were. He handed it to me. "You'll know what to write on it when you're ready." Before I could ask what that meant, he added, "You only get out if you accept that this isn't the first time, and if you stop coming back." He didn't guide us out. He didn't point. He just sat back down on the log, same position as before, and said, "Sunrise. That's your window. Don't wait." We walked. Not fast. Not running. Just walking like people who aren't sure if the ground under them is real. The forest didn't try to confuse us this time. The trail opened. The fork appeared exactly where it should have been. Our car was exactly where we left it. When we drove away, neither of us looked in the rearview mirror. Not because we weren't curious, because we were afraid something familiar might be looking back. We got home. Life resumed. For a long time, we didn't talk about it. Not to each other, not to anyone else. Months later, I pulled out my old camping gear to clean it, and inside one of the pockets was the blank folded paper he gave me. I unfolded it, still blank. But my hand started writing before I knew what I was doing. I wrote 3 words. "We left again." The ink bled slightly into the paper like it had been waiting for that sentence, like it recognized it. I don't know if we'll ever go back. I'd like to think we won't. But I've caught myself searching that national park on maps again. The same coordinates, the same ridge, the same clearing. And each time, I feel the same tug in my chest. A strange, quiet pull. Like I've forgotten something. Or like a place is waiting for me to remember. It started with a sound we couldn't explain. A single sharp crack, somewhere out in the tree line, loud enough to stop all 4 of us mid-sentence. The kind of sound that doesn't belong in a quiet forest at midnight. I remember how the fire popped right after, like it reacted to whatever was out there. My friend Jason turned his head slowly, eyes narrowed, like he was trying to figure out if the noise was an animal, or something walking toward us. None of us said anything. That silence, it felt heavy, like the woods were waiting for our reaction. And you, watching this, let me ask you, have you ever been in a place so quiet that every sound feels intentional? That was the moment everything shifted. We came to that forest looking for a peaceful weekend. Instead, we ended up learning why the locals avoided that entire stretch of land, and why it was called the campsite of lost souls. The trip wasn't planned months ahead. It wasn't some big adventure. It was just 4 friends trying to escape a stressful week. Me, Jason, Tara, and Marcus. Someone online mentioned a secluded clearing deep inside the old Pine Haven Reserve. No traffic, no other campers, just a wide open space surrounded by towering trees. Back then, the name sounded peaceful. Now, it sounds like a warning. The first strange thing didn't happen at night. It happened the moment we arrived. There were no birds, no insects, no movement in the treetops. Just stillness. Have you ever stepped into a place that felt paused? Like everything normal had stepped aside? Jason laughed it off, saying we finally found the quietest spot in the state. But Tara kept glancing around like she expected someone to step out from behind a tree. Marcus brought up an old rumor he'd heard about Pine Haven, how people went missing decades ago, back when the forest was used for search and rescue training. He said the stories were exaggerated. He said it casually, but his voice didn't match his face. By the time the sun dropped, that uneasy quiet grew even thicker. We sat around the campfire talking about random things when it came again. That sharp crack. Same direction, same distance. This time it was followed by a second sound. A slow, dragging shuffle across dead leaves. I leaned forward, trying to listen. The firelight only reached a few feet, and beyond that, it was just darkness. Jason grabbed a flashlight and pointed it toward the trees. That beam barely cut through the darkness. Nothing moved, nothing showed, but the feeling didn't go away. You know how your instincts sometimes react before your brain does? That's what happened. Something was out there. Not an animal, not another camper. Something aware of us and watching. Around 1 a.m. we noticed the lights. They weren't campfires. They weren't flashlights. They weren't stars. They were small, pale orbs drifting through the trees, slowly, steadily, like they were tracing the outline of our campsite. Tara whispered, "Are those people?" But the lights didn't behave like people holding lanterns. They moved too smoothly, too quietly, too deliberately. Marcus stepped back toward the tent and said, "Those are where the trails used to be." "Used to be?" I asked. He swallowed hard. "They shut this place down for a reason." At this point, I have to explain something important. Before this night, I didn't believe in any of the local stories. I thought they were just old campfire tales. But after minutes of those lights circling us, after the dragging footsteps, after the feeling of being surrounded, I started remembering something I had read online. A brief, half-archived article about Pine Haven's past. About a failed rescue mission. About people who walked into the forest and never walked back out. About a final transmission where one of the rescuers said they didn't recognize the voices calling for help. Voices that came from the dark. Voices that weren't human. The article never explained what that meant. We were about to find out. Around 2:30 a.m., Tara froze. Her head tilted slightly, and she said, "Did you hear that?" We all turned to her. She pointed toward the black tree line and said, "It sounded like someone calling my name." Jason frowned. "No one's out there." But then, another voice. This time we all heard it. A low, drawn-out call, like someone trying to speak, but struggling to form the words. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't an echo. It sounded like someone who needed help. But the tone didn't match the words. The voice felt empty. Like someone repeating a phrase without understanding it. "Help me. Help. Help." Each repetition slower, more distorted. Have you ever heard a voice that sounded human, but also didn't? That's exactly what it felt like. Marcus made the mistake of stepping forward to look. Just one step. The moment his shoe touched the forest floor, all the lights went out. Every single orb, every shimmer, every glow. the tree line went totally dark. And then, the dragging footsteps returned. But this time, they were closer. Much closer. We backed up toward the tent, hearts pounding, trying to see through the darkness. Then something moved. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady. Like someone walking with purpose. The footsteps stopped a few feet beyond the circle of firelight. We couldn't see a face. We couldn't see a body. Just a shape. Tall. Still. Watching. But what made us run wasn't the shape itself. It was the sound that followed. A chorus of voices. Layered. Broken. Overlapping. Repeating the same phrase in a tone that didn't match the message. Help me. Help. Help. Dozens of them. Like everyone who ever got lost here was standing behind that shadow. We grabbed our lights, our phones, everything we could carry, and bolted for the trail. But the trail wasn't where it had been hours earlier. The forest didn't look the same. The path curved in the wrong direction. The trees were arranged differently. Have you ever tried to run in a place that suddenly felt unfamiliar? We kept moving, hoping we were going the right way. But every few minutes, those lights reappeared. Always behind us. Never ahead. Like they weren't guiding us out. They were guiding us deeper. Hours later, after scrambling over fallen logs, tearing through branches, and running until our legs almost gave out, we saw a clearing. Not the one we camped in. A different one. In the center was something like a collapsed structure. Old wood. Metal beams. A shattered sign with just a few letters left. RCH Base. Avon Rescue. And suddenly it made sense. This was the base for the rescue team that vanished decades ago. The lights. The voices. The trail shifting. It wasn't just lost hikers. It was the rescuers too. Everyone who ever entered the forest. Still trying to call for help that would never come. Just after sunrise, we finally stumbled onto a real hiking path. And not long after that, a ranger found us. He asked which part of Pine Haven we camped in. When we told him, he froze. That area's been closed since '89, he said. No one goes there. Not anymore. We didn't argue. We didn't ask questions. We just got in his truck and left that forest behind. But sometimes, late at night, I still think about the voices, the lights, the shape beyond the fire. And I wonder, what would have happened if we had answered those voices? What if they weren't calling for help? What if they were calling us? The moment that changed everything was small, almost forgettable. A twig snapped somewhere behind our tent. Sharp, clean, deliberate. My daughter Emily froze mid-sentence. My wife put a hand on her shoulder, waiting for me to say something reassuring. But I didn't. Because the sound didn't match the silence around us. And I need to ask you, have you ever had a moment where your body reacts before your mind? Where something inside you tightens, even before you understand why? That's exactly how it started. Our quiet family camping trip shifted into something else. Something watching us. Something patient. And from that night on, the woods never felt empty again. We weren't thrill seekers or hikers or adventurers. Just a family trying to spend time away from phones, traffic, and noise. Me, my wife Sarah, and our 12-year-old daughter Emily. We picked a simple, well-marked spot along Alder Creek, a place families visited all the time. At least, that's what the park's website said. But when we arrived, the first thing we noticed was how quiet everything was. Not peaceful quiet, the kind of quiet that feels intentional. Emily asked, "Why is it so still? Aren't there birds?" I didn't have an answer. We set up camp, made lunch, walked the trail near the creek. Everything felt normal. But right before sundown, Sarah nudged me. "Do you see that?" She pointed toward the ridge. At first, I thought she was imagining things. You know how shadows stretch strangely as the sun drops. But then I saw it too. A shape. Far away. Still. Tall. Just standing between the trees. Too far to identify, but too solid to ignore. "Probably another camper," I said. But the truth? I didn't believe that. Not for a second. By the time we settled by the fire, the woods felt tighter, like something had moved closer. Around 10 p.m. we heard it again. A snap. Then another. Like someone taking careful steps around the edge of the campsite. Not close enough to see, but close enough to hear. Sarah whispered, "Do you think someone followed us up the trail?" I wanted to say no. I really did. But every sound felt directed at us. Every pause felt intentional. And this part, I remember clearly. Emily leaned her head against me and said, "Dad, the trees feel like they're staring." I didn't correct her, because that's exactly how it felt. At around 1 a.m. I stepped outside the tent just to check things. That's when I saw them. 3 figures, spread out. Each standing between a pair of trees, motionless. They weren't holding lights. They weren't moving. They weren't doing anything, just watching. From a distance, they looked like tall silhouettes, long limbs, narrow shoulders. I blinked hard, thinking my eyes were playing tricks. But when I opened them again, the figures hadn't changed position. Not even a bit. My throat tightened. I slowly zipped the tent shut, sat next to Sarah, and whispered, "We're leaving in the morning." But somewhere deep inside, I already knew. Whatever those things were, they might not let us leave. We tried to sleep. We didn't. Every now and then, a soft step circled the tent. Grass shifting. Breathing, slow, steady. Almost like someone pacing. Around 4 a.m., Emily whispered, "Something's near the window." I turned quickly. Something crouched low outside the mesh. A shape so close I could see its outline through the thin fabric. A head. A shoulder. Something leaning in, like it was studying us. I held my breath, and then it rose back up into the darkness, almost blending into the trees, like its skin matched the forest somehow. You ever stare at something and feel like it's evaluating you? Like it's trying to understand what you are? That's exactly what that moment felt like. Morning didn't make things better. If anything, it made them worse. Birds should have been calling. Insects should have been buzzing. A stream nearby should have been trickling. But the silence remained. Thick. Heavy. Almost like the forest was holding its breath. We packed up fast. While we loaded our gear, Emily tugged my sleeve and pointed at the dirt near the tree line. Footprints, but not normal ones. Elongated, narrow, deep, like whatever made them was heavier than it looked. They circled our tent, our fire pit, our cooler. Every step placed with unsettling precision. And the strangest part? Each print faced the campsite. None walked away. We started down the trail, or what we thought was the trail. Every landmark we remembered from yesterday looked different. A fallen log was suddenly gone. A fork in the path wasn't there anymore. The slope of the ridge felt steeper. Sarah grabbed my arm. "This isn't the same path." I knew she was right. The woods weren't letting us out. And that's when Emily said something that chilled me more than anything else that happened on that trip. "They're walking with us." I turned quickly. At first, I saw nothing. But then, between the thick columns of trees, a figure shifted slightly. And another. And another. Always half hidden. Always just far enough that I couldn't make out a face. Matching our pace. Every step. Not rushing. Not slowing down. Just following. After almost an hour, the trail opened into a large clearing. Relief hit me. until I realized we'd been here before. It was our campsite. Our entire hike had looped back without us feeling the turn. My stomach dropped. Sarah whispered, "We're trapped." And that's when the woods came alive. Not loudly, not dramatically, just all at once. Figures stepped out from behind the trees, one by one, dozens, tall, still, all facing us. Their heads tilted slightly like birds studying prey. Emily grabbed my hand and hid behind me. I held her closer. And in that moment, I understood the stories hikers told online, the ones people laughed at, about missing campers, about trails that changed, about shapes that watched from the trees. The woods weren't empty. They never had been. I don't know what instinct kicked in, but I grabbed our bags, told Sarah to take Emily's hand, and ran toward the creek. Not the trail, the creek. Water is harder to track, harder to follow. We waded through it, stumbling over rocks, slipping, cutting our feet. But we didn't stop. Behind us, the trees rustled. Slow, methodical movement. Those things, whatever they were, kept pace along the banks. But they never stepped into the water. That was our chance. After nearly 2 hours, we spotted a ranger station through the trees. We sprinted toward it. When we burst inside, the ranger looked at us like we'd been dragged through a nightmare. He asked where we camped. We told him. His face changed completely. "That area isn't open," he said quietly. "It hasn't been for years." We didn't ask why. Not then. But weeks later, I looked it up. People disappeared there. Some were found wandering miles away, disoriented, silent, unable to speak about what they saw. Others were never found. Sometimes, late at night, I replay the moment we reached the ranger station. The way Emily kept turning around, checking the tree line. The way Sarah kept glancing over her shoulder. And I think about those figures. The ones who watched us, studied us, followed us. They didn't chase us. They didn't grab us. They just observed, like they were waiting to see what we'd do. And the question that haunts me, the question I still ask myself, what would have happened if we hadn't run toward the creek? What if the woods wanted us to stay? How many families had they watched before us? Because deep down, I don't think those figures protect the forest. I think they're part of it. And they're always watching.